Welcome back to CS 107. This is week 2. We're going to get into more computer science concepts this week, as well as some in-class apps you're going to build and the homework. Alrighty, so we'll be introing a new computer science concept this week, concept known as events. There's 2 apps you're going to build this week, the Four Corners app, the I Have a Dream app, and we'll go over the homework for week 2. So as I sort of mentioned in the first video, I have a soft spot for corny jokes. If we were doing this live in person, there'd be a corny joke every week. So if you will humor me, I'm going to add a couple of these in. You can pause the video to try to figure out yourself, or I will give the answer in about 5 seconds. Wah, wah. Alrighty. So from a educational, like a philosophy of education point of view, for any class, but really this class, if you're in your comfort zone, if you're doing things that you've already done before, that you already know how to do, there's very little learning involved. And the goal for really, I think for any professor or any class is to push students into what we might consider a stretch zone. And so a stretch zone might be defined by you having to take some risks, to be a little more vulnerable with your time, and to accept that sometimes things aren't going to be right immediately, and that you'll have to try things over and over to get them right. That's very common in computer science, where things are rarely perfect. And for example, if you're familiar with using apps on your own phone, there's a new version that's coming out every month or 2 for you to download, which tells you that they're never complete and that nothing is ever really perfect. And on the far end, of course, is where we might call the red zone or the stress zone, which is when things just become overwhelming. And my goal as a professor is to push you into the stretch zone, but not to get you into the stress zone. And we do the weekly feedback every week so that you can give me some feedback on where you're at, and to make sure that the activities are set up to appropriately push you in a comfortable way. So related to that is this class is about a process for thinking about computer science and to learn concepts. It's not about any particular product or a perfect thing. The goal of this class is to sort of demystify computer science and coding, and to give you some perspective on how it works, and hopefully to continue with it in one form or another. Office hours for this class, for Rothman, I'm doing 5 to 7 on Thursday nights. You can email me if you want to hit me up for an appointment. Section 1 and Section 2 have these same hours. We're also actively using Piazza, so if you have questions and you want a faster answer, post it up there, and we're monitoring that to give you feedback. Quick review of the grading. The apps, or what we might think of as the in-class work, is about 50% of the grade. Homework is 40% of the grade. Don't anticipate a whole lot of quizzes or exams, if any at all, other than some just check-ins, I guess, on concepts, but don't worry too much about that. If you can get that, you can put the time into the apps and the homework, you are going to be fine. To review the homework policy, it's always going to be due Sunday night. You don't accept late homework. That said, the apps are due on Sunday nights, but they can be resubmitted. So if you submit an app and you don't quite get the grade you want, you can resubmit it for a higher grade. And when you do that, it has to be during office hours with the TA, because they do the grading. And so the grade adjustments, you can get grade adjustments on the apps, and those are during TA office hours. It doesn't work to do that by email. It's complex, and it really requires sort of a face-to-face. We can accept late apps, but there is a penalty. So given that we haven't had live meetings for this course, Piazza's, I think, a really good tool. I think the user interface leaves a lot to be desired, but one really cool feature Piazza has is you can post anonymously. So it's really important, if you have questions that you maybe wouldn't be as comfortable asking in front of a group for whatever reason, please do just post anonymously. We want to make sure people can move forward and people feel supported, even though we're in this distance learning asynchronous format. And if you see an answer and you know the answer, and if you beat myself or any of the TAs to it, try to answer it. It would be a great help. I'll either follow up with "Thank you, you did a great job, you had the right answer," or "That wasn't 100% correct, here's something else to think about." But really want to encourage everyone to think of this as a community where we can get answers from each other. So please continue to use Piazza. Usually I post feedback from anonymously post feedback from the feedback survey, so you can get a sense of what people feel like is going well and what needs to be changed. I'd like to think of this class as really responsive to your needs. So if the end of the week feedback survey, put in things that worked and things that didn't quite as work as well, we try to make those adjustments. Didn't at the time of me recording this, which is Friday, August 21st, have only a couple people have finished the feedback survey, so I don't have much to share at this time, but expect it going forward. Quick review of Thunkable. The main things: you have the design screen. On the left side of the screen are where you can find your components. In the middle is sort of a show you what your preview of your screen will look like, and on the right side is where you can customize the components, and that's in the properties panel. The second main screen is the block screen, and this is where you can start to build the responses. So kind of getting ahead of today's sort of mini lecture, an event, the components of your app, whether it's a button or something more sophisticated, the user interaction with the app is generally the event. We'll get into that, and this is where you can code the responses to the events. There's video tutorials all over this course, in particular building sort of the basic app. Some YouTube features that you're probably already familiar with, but I think are really helpful, are the speed and the subtitles. So whatever the video, if I'm not talking fast enough, you can always move faster through it. And if you would prefer to work off of subtitles, you can also translate the subtitles, which is really, really cool. So trying to make this class and this course material accessible more broadly. Okay, so you can pause at any point in the video and obviously go code. And under the rotary, that's how you get to the speed and the subtitles. Alrighty. Another trick, if you don't happen to have two screens, is you can set up. I think it's useful to set up two browser windows if you only have one screen. It can be really useful to set up two browser windows, so you can code in one screen and code in one window and watch the video in another if you're more partial to tutorials. If we're in week 2, you probably already figured out how to submit the work, but just to sort of reiterate, the key is for every project that you do, when you're on the My Projects page, there's a complimentary specific to that app project page, and when you can get it by clicking the 3 dots. You get to the project page, you copy the URL, and that's what you're submitting. If you need more, watch the video. A couple ways to test your app. You can get the app for your phone, on which you can test an app, or you can test in your browser. It won't look as pretty, but it will generally work just as well. Okay, so there's 2 apps you're going to build this week. One is called the Four Corners app, and this app doesn't require any coding at all. This is a pretty basic app, and the reason why we're doing it is I want you to get comfortable with the how to do layouts for the user interface. So how you can set up a user interface so that the components go exactly where you want them to be, so that your app looks the way you want it. So this app, very specifically, there's no coding. It's really just focused on learning the user interface, using rows, columns, and buttons. And the Four Corners app, the goal is to be able to get the buttons into the corners of the app. This should be a pretty quick app. And with that, actually, I'm going to introduce our first, or rather, you can choose to do it through mild, medium, spicy. You can do a video tutorial, the steps. It's meant to be an easy app. I just want you to get more comfortable with using the user interface tools. There's a customization challenge related. If you would like to get full credit, you'll have to do 4 unique customizations for your buttons, of which that can be size, text, color, pictures. You can do a lot of different things, but 4 unique customizations. Alrighty, so the concept for this week is events. And an event is basically anything the user does to trigger an action on the phone. Again, an event is anything the user does to trigger an action within the app. So some very basic examples, which you probably came across in week 1. An event was like when you clicked in the text box, maybe the keyboard comes up, or I guess specific to your app, maybe the app speaks the text that's in the text box, or that may have happened when you clicked a button. That's another common event. A response is the app might speak what is in the text box, or for some people, they were able to set up the accelerometer, so when you shake the phone will say something. So an event is something the user initiates within the app, and then it creates a response, and that's called event-based programming. So a Again, an example, very simply, when button 1 is clicked, that's the event, and the response is calling sound 1 to play. The event being the yellow blocks generally. A really important concept that I'll reiterate is, so you have an event, that's the thing the user does. You have the response, which is the code you build into it. The code which encapsulates the event and the response together is the event handler. So we have events, responses. The events plus the response equals the event handler. So again, you might have an event such as the button 1 clicked. The response was the text-to-speech is called. The event plus the response, those blocks together, it can often be way more than 2 blocks, but in this case it's 2 blocks. That's the event handler. So from a really simple perspective, what event changes the color? Obviously it's the button. The event is the button being clicked. The response is setting the background color of that button. Those two things together, that's the event handler. Another example of an event handler, we have a button being clicked, sound being played, and a vibration sound, or I guess the phone is going to vibrate. So those 2 blocks are the response. The button being clicked is the event plus the response is the event handler. We've seen this example, button clicked, that's the event. The background color changing, that's response, together it's the event handler. A little more complex here. If you are taking a picture, after the picture, so taking the picture is the event, and this is for a more complex app where you would actually store the picture. So you would call the database, you'd store the picture in the database, you'd set the background image to the image that you just took, and you might actually even open another screen. Those things are the response. Taking the picture is the event. All of the code together is the event handler. Alrighty. For this app you're going to build this week, which is the I Have a Dream app, very simply, when the MLK button is pressed, the MLK player should play, or rather the MLK app should play the MLK speech. So that's something you'll run into this week. Speaking of which, the I Have a Dream app, it's the more complicated of this week's 2 apps. You're going to build an app that plays speeches by MLK and Malcolm X. So what's going to happen is you're going to press a button and an MLK speech will play. You might press a button and a Malcolm X speech will play. The way you get to this is, on the curriculum site, which I hope I've linked enough times. It's lesson 1.2, and there's a template, and it's really important that you open the template first because I put all the media that you need on the template. So the images you're going to use and the sound files, which are the speeches, they're in the template. So you need to navigate to bit.ly/cs2thunk. That's just a bit.ly I created today. This I Have a Dream app is lesson 1.2. And so on the CS2 site or the I Have a Dream handout, you can click and it should open the template. You'll make a copy of the template and you'll build from there. I guess that's at step 1, but really, so this should be part or step 2. Is you'll build the user interface. You can follow a video tutorial. You can follow the step-by-steps. And if you're really feeling yourself, you can build just from the description of the app. The next thing is you'll do the programming for the app such that when you click the MLK button, the MLK speech will play, or if you click the Malcolm X button, the Malcolm X speech will play. Your challenge would be add a 3rd civil rights activist, so you'll need to do some, you need to manipulate the user interface using the stuff that you'll practice in the Four Corners app. You'll add another image that could be a 3rd civil rights leader of some sort. And so what you're going to do, instead of finding, you could find a sound file if you wanted, that's totally fine. Or you can simply find a speech or article they have written and copy a couple of lines of it into the text-to-speech component. So when the new button that you're going to create is pressed, it will play their speech. Or you could find a sound file. Both of those would be fine. Okay. Actually, let me show you what these apps look like. So we went over that a little fast. So here's the Four Corners app. It's really simple. You're building a user interface. It's this challenge, or rather this activity is just about getting comfortable with the user interface. You'll put 4 buttons. You'll figure out how to set up the user interface in a way that you can put the buttons in the corners of the app. You'll use rows and columns to set it up, and hopefully you'll learn. The idea is you will learn how to set things up in a more sophisticated way through the user interface. This is what the final version of the I Have a Dream app looks like. I added a third civil rights leader. I put Colin Kaepernick in there, and if I was going to play it, this is me testing it in the browser. Understand it doesn't look quite as good, but it should work just as well. So let's test it out. I have a dream. We got Martin. Ooh, Malcolm X. Need to work on that a little bit. Maybe I didn't quite get it right.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
All right, and so Colin Kaepernick works, and apparently I need to go back and fix the Malcolm X button, but get the idea of what it should look like. Alrighty, let's get into the homework for this week. This homework for this week is 2 different block coding activities, and the idea is to get just more comfortable with block coding. So we're going to practice a couple of things. The first activity is using a basic platform. It's called Blockly. So you'll open up the Blockly mazes, and you're going to work through levels 1 through 9. Level 10 is really challenging, so don't worry if you can't figure it out. This guy was my old student teacher. He made this video. He's a character. You can watch it for guidance, but you also don't have to watch it. And you'll be in this platform called Blockly, and you're going to make some basic programs. So start. Okay, so we got to do a couple of these. Okay, see what happens. Okay, level 1, really easy, and level 2 will be harder, and so on. Let's see what else we got going on here. Okay, so you'll get through level 9. I'm not worried about level 10, but definitely get through level 9. You're going to screenshot your code for level 9, and that's what you'll submit, is a screenshot of your code for level 9. And then the second part of the homework, you can use a different platform. It's called Lightbot, and Lightbot's really cool. The problem with Lightbot is it uses Flash, so I understand that. Well, if you're using Chrome, it's going to give you it's going to make you jump through some hoops, which is understandable. An easy way to do this is if you happen to have Safari, you can just switch over to Safari or a different internet browser. But I'll show you what this looks like real quick. There's a couple little steps you got to jump through. So once you're on this page, you'll go to the online version of Lightbot and see it. Wanted me to click Flash, but I've been here before. It's got kind of annoying sound, so I'll shut that off. But you'll do the hour code, and you're going to do level 1 basic. So you can just click it here, and you'll start at level 1, and you'll do some more coding. So this guy, okay, it'll give you instructions, but I want you to work through level 1 to puzzle 8, and I want you to take a screenshot of your code for, should say, okay, level or puzzle 8, however you want to look at it. Take a screenshot of that code, and that's what you'll submit. Finally, for today, for this week, I don't want to be Principal Skinner. I don't want to be out of touch with what your experience is and the way that I can be connected to the experience that you're having to make sure that we make the adjustments that are necessary in the class. I need you to do the feedback surveys every week. It's a graded part of the class. It's a way for you to communicate to me what is working for you and what needs to be adjusted. This is a new version of this class that is fully online and is fully asynchronous. So we want to make changes here. We can't effectively change this class, can't make it better without your feedback. I'm committed to making this a really positive learning experience for you, and so I need your feedback. I don't get to see you in person every week the way I would normally to kind of get your feedback, so the survey is that much more important. Okay, so to review your tasks this week, you'll build the Four Corners app. There's no coding involved with that. It's just the layout. I Have a Dream app, which, and so you'll build this app. There's two coding activities as your homework assignment. The week 2 survey. Everything is due Sunday night. I believe that will be August 30th. 3 opportunities for office hours, Mondays and Wednesdays with the TAs, and you can come hang out with me on Thursday nights. Use Piazza. I hope the classes start off really smoothly for you, and look forward to connecting again soon. Take care.